I called Amanda to ask what time Thomas's funeral would be held, needing to arrange travel from 3 states away. Amanda's voice went cold and distant. She said the funeral happened 2 weeks ago while I was supposedly unreachable. It was small, Amanda explained, just for close friends, nothing formal. I stood frozen in my kitchen, phone trembling in my hand. 2 weeks. My only son, my Thomas, gone and buried without me, Amanda's words echoed. It was more like a celebration for a best friend, really. He would have wanted it intimate. My legs gave out. I sank into the kitchen chair, still gripping the phone like it might somehow pull me back to reality. This couldn't be real. My Thomas, my baby boy, who I'd raised alone after his father died, gone without me even knowing. The walls seemed to close in around me. Amanda, I managed to whisper, my voice cracking. How did he die? When exactly? Why didn't anyone call me? There was a pause on the other end. When Amanda spoke again, her tone carried an edge of impatience that made my stomach turn. Lynn, I tried calling you multiple times. Your phone kept going straight to voicemail. Thomas had a heart attack while we were hiking up in the mountains. It was sudden. He collapsed on the trail. By the time the paramedics arrived, it was too late. My mind reeled. Thomas was only 38 years old. He jogged every morning. He ate healthy. A heart attack? The doctors said it was a congenital defect, Amanda continued, her voice flat, rehearsed. Something that never showed up on any tests. It just happened. I had to make decisions quickly about the funeral. His friends needed closure. I couldn't wait indefinitely for you to become reachable. But Amanda, I've been home the entire time. My phone has been on. I never missed any calls from you. Well, I don't know what to tell you, Lynn. I called at least 5 times. Maybe there was something wrong with your service. I pulled the phone away from my ear and frantically checked my call log with shaking fingers. No missed calls from Amanda. No voicemails. Nothing. I brought the phone back up. Amanda, there are no calls from you in my history. Not one. Her voice hardened. Are you calling me a liar? My husband just died, Lynn. I don't need this right now. I did the best I could under horrible circumstances. I'm sorry you feel left out, but the funeral is over. Thomas is at peace now. I need to go. Wait, please. Where is he buried? I need to visit him. I need to see my son. Another pause. It was a cremation. I scattered his ashes at his favorite lookout point in the mountains. That's what he would have wanted. The line went dead. I sat there in my kitchen as afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating dust motes in the air. Everything looked normal, ordinary, but my world had just shattered. I tried to make sense of it. Thomas hadn't mentioned any hiking trip. We'd spoken just 3 weeks ago, and he'd sounded fine, normal, talking about a project at work. He'd said he'd call me back in a few days. That call never came. With trembling hands, I scrolled through my contacts and found Derek's number. Derek had been Thomas's roommate in college and remained one of his closest friends. If anyone would know about the funeral, it would be Derek. He answered on the 3rd ring. Mrs. Patterson, how are you? Derek, I said, my voice barely steady. I just heard about Thomas. I'm so sorry I missed the funeral. Amanda said it was 2 weeks ago. Silence on the other end. Then, Mrs. Patterson, what are you talking about? What funeral? My heart skipped. Thomas died. Amanda just told me. A heart attack while hiking 2 weeks ago. What? No, that's not. Mrs. Patterson, I saw Thomas's Facebook post 3 days ago. He shared an article about some tech conference. I commented on it, and he replied back. The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the table. Derek, are you absolutely certain? Yes, completely. Hold on. Let me check right now. I heard clicking sounds. Yeah, here it is. He posted a photo 4 days ago from that coffee shop he likes downtown. The comments are recent. People are talking to him about weekend plans. My hands shook so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. Derek, I need to go. Thank you. I hung up and immediately opened Facebook on my laptop. It took me a moment to find Thomas's page because my vision was blurring with tears or shock or both. But there it was, his profile, active and current. A photo from 4 days ago of a latte with some intricate foam art. The caption read, "Best coffee in the city, hands down, 17 likes, 8 comments. Friends making jokes, Thomas responding with laughing emojis. My son was alive. Or he had been 4 days ago. I called Amanda back immediately. It rang and rang, no answer. I tried again. Again, 5 more times. Finally, a text message appeared on my screen. "Stop harassing me. I'm grieving. The funeral is over. Let me mourn in peace." Something was very, very wrong. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? My daughter-in-law told me my son was dead, but his social media is active? They'd think I was confused, a hysterical old woman. I needed more information first. I called Thomas's number. Straight to voicemail. His cheerful voice on the recording made my chest ache. "Hey, you've reached Tom. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." I left a desperate message begging him to call me back. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I booked a flight. Thomas lived in Denver, 6 hours away, by plane from my home in Florida. Amanda had always made excuses about why visits were inconvenient. The timing was never right. They were too busy. They'd come visit me instead, she'd say, though they rarely did. I'd only been to their house twice in the 3 years they'd been married. I should have visited more. I should have insisted. But Amanda always had a way of making me feel intrusive, unwelcome. And Thomas went along with it, assuring me everything was fine. They'd come see me soon. As I threw clothes into a suitcase, my phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered breathlessly. "Is this Lynn Patterson?" A woman's voice, professional. "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Sarah Chen from Tech Vision Solutions. I'm calling about Thomas Patterson. You're listed as his emergency contact. We're trying to locate him. He hasn't shown up to work in 3 days and isn't answering our calls. We're concerned. Do you know where he is?" The floor dropped out from under me. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. 3 days? I whispered. "Yes, since Monday. It's very unlike him. He's one of our most reliable employees. We've tried his personal phone, his work phone, even reached out to some colleagues. No one has heard from him." "I'll find him," I said, my voice stronger now. "I'll call you back." I hung up and stared at the wall. Thomas wasn't dead, but he was missing. He'd been missing for 3 days, and Amanda had told me he died 2 weeks ago. What had she done to my son? The red-eye flight was torture. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. I kept replaying Amanda's words, the coldness in her voice, the convenient story that kept changing. By the time I landed in Denver at dawn, I was running on pure adrenaline and fear. I rented a car and drove straight to the address I had for Thomas and Amanda's house. The neighborhood was beautiful, one of those newer suburban developments with perfectly manicured lawns and matching mailboxes. Young trees lined the streets. It was the kind of place where nothing bad was supposed to happen. Their house was a 2-story colonial, with gray siding and white trim. Thomas's car, a blue Honda, was parked in the driveway. That gave me a small measure of hope. I parked on the street and walked up to the front door on legs that felt like jelly. I rang the doorbell, waited, rang again. Nothing. I knocked, loudly. "Amanda! Thomas! It's Lynn!" Silence. I walked around to the side of the house and peered through the windows. The living room looked normal, lived in. A coffee mug sat on the side table. Magazines were fanned out on the coffee table. But no people. A woman's voice called out from the neighboring yard. "Can I help you?" I turned to see a woman in her 40s, wearing yoga clothes, and holding a leash attached to a small terrier. "I'm looking for Thomas Patterson," I said. "I'm his mother." Her face brightened with recognition. "Oh, you're Thomas's mom." "I'm Jennifer, from next door. I've seen Thomas around, but not lately, actually. Haven't seen him in maybe a week? But I saw Amanda yesterday evening." "A week?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. Jennifer looked uncomfortable. Maybe a little less? Time gets away from me. Is everything okay? Did you notice anything unusual? Any arguments? Anything strange? She hesitated, then lowered her voice even though we were alone. Well, I don't like to gossip, but last week there was a lot of shouting coming from their house one evening. Couldn't make out the words, but it sounded heated. My husband and I were concerned, but it quieted down eventually. When was this exactly? Maybe Thursday or Friday of last week? Around 8 or 9 at night. That would have been a week ago, right around when Thomas stopped showing up to work. Thank you, I said. If you see Thomas, please call me. I scribbled my number on a piece of paper from my purse. After Jennifer went inside, I stood there staring at the house. I'd promised myself I wouldn't do this, but desperation overrode propriety. Thomas had given me an emergency key years ago, hidden under a fake rock near the garden hose. He told me it was there in case anything ever happened, and someone needed to get in. I found the rock exactly where he'd described. The key was still there. My heart pounded as I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. Thomas? Amanda? I called out, giving them one more chance. Nothing. The house smelled of vanilla air freshener and something else underneath it, something chemical and sharp. The living room was immaculate, too immaculate, like a staged home for a real estate showing rather than a place where people actually lived. I walked through the rooms carefully, looking for anything out of place. The kitchen was spotless. No dirty dishes, no sign of recent cooking. I opened the refrigerator. Food inside, but some of it looked old. Wilted lettuce. Yogurt past its expiration date. Upstairs, I found the master bedroom. My breath caught. The closet doors were open. Amanda's side was full of clothes, shoes neatly arranged. But Thomas's side was nearly empty. Maybe 10 items hanging there, a few pairs of shoes. That was it. Thomas had a lot of clothes. He liked fashion, liked dressing well. Where were all his things? I checked the bathroom. Only Amanda's toiletries. Thomas's electric toothbrush was gone. In the second bedroom, which Thomas used as a home office, the situation was even more disturbing. The desk was bare. No computer, no papers, no books. The shelves were empty. It was like the room had been stripped clean. I found Amanda's study down the hall. Unlike Thomas's office, this room was full of life. Papers stacked on the desk, books on shelves, a laptop plugged in and charging. I knew I shouldn't, but I started looking through the papers. Divorce papers. Unsigned, dated 3 months ago. Filed by Thomas, not Amanda. My hands shook as I kept digging. Bank statements. I saw transfers from their joint account to an account in only Amanda's name. Thousands of dollars transferred over the past 2 months. The joint account was nearly drained. Life insurance documents. Thomas had a policy for $2 million. I was listed as the beneficiary, not Amanda. That made sense. I'd helped him set it up years ago when he started his career. Medical records from last month. A full physical. The doctor's notes indicated Thomas was in excellent health. No heart problems, no congenital defects. What are you doing in my house? I spun around. Amanda stood in the doorway, her face white with shock and rage. She was dressed for work in a pencil skirt and blouse, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. Where is Thomas? I demanded, clutching the papers. Get out. Get out right now, or I'm calling the police. Not until you tell me where my son is. His employer called me. He's been missing for 3 days. You told me he was dead, but his social media was active. His car is in the driveway. Where is he? Amanda's face cycled through emotions too quickly for me to read. Then she seemed to make a decision. Her expression hardened into something cold and calculated. Fine. You want the truth? Thomas left me. He ran off with some woman he met online. Just packed up his things and walked out 2 weeks ago. I was too humiliated to tell you. What was I supposed to say? That your perfect son is a cheater who abandoned his wife? That's a lie. His office is empty. His clothes are gone. But his car is here. Where would he go without his car? She picked him up. They left together. He said he'd come back for the car later. I was so humiliated, so hurt. I made up the funeral story to save face. I couldn't stand the pity. But yes, I lied. I'm sorry. Now get out of my house. These divorce papers were filed by Thomas, not you. 3 months ago. You're lying. Amanda's eyes flashed. He filed for divorce because of the other woman. It broke my heart. Now please, leave before I have you arrested for breaking and entering. Not until you explain the fresh dirt in your backyard. The words came out before I fully thought them through, but I'd noticed it when I peeked through the back window. The flower bed along the fence had been completely redone. Fresh soil, new mulch, disturbed earth. In November, when no one plants flowers, Amanda's face went from pale to gray. That's none of your business. I wanted a new garden. Now get out. Thomas wouldn't leave without his car. He wouldn't stop going to work without notice. He wouldn't ignore his mother's calls. Something happened to him, and you know what it is. Get out, Amanda screamed. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police right now. I gathered the papers I'd found and walked toward the door, but Amanda blocked my way. Those are my private documents. Put them back. These are about my son. I'm keeping them. We stood there, in a tense standoff. Finally, Amanda stepped aside, but her eyes were full of rage. As I walked past her toward the stairs, she grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise. You don't know what you're messing with, Lynn. Leave it alone. Thomas is gone. Accept it and move on with your life. I yanked my arm free and walked down the stairs and out the front door. Behind me, I heard Amanda on the phone, her voice high and frantic. I couldn't make out the words, but the panic in her tone was unmistakable. As I got into my rental car, I glanced back at the house. Amanda was standing at the window, phone pressed to her ear, watching me. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that my son was in terrible danger, or worse. That fresh dirt in the backyard, the emptied room, the life insurance papers, all of it pointed to something horrible. I drove away, but I wasn't going far. I was going straight to the police. The Denver Police Department's main station was a modern building downtown. I walked in with my folder of documents and asked to speak to someone about a missing person. After a 20-minute wait, I was directed to a desk where a detective in his late 40s sat reviewing paperwork. Detective Hayes, he said, standing to shake my hand. His grip was firm, his eyes kind but tired. How can I help you? I sat down and spilled everything. The fake funeral story, the conflicting timelines, Thomas's empty office at home, his missing clothes, his job calling about his absence, the fresh dirt in the backyard, the life insurance documents, the divorce papers. I showed him the medical records proving Thomas had no heart condition. Detective Hayes listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, he nodded slowly. Mrs. Patterson, I understand your concern. Let me ask you some questions. When was the last time you personally spoke to Thomas? 3 weeks ago. We talked on the phone for about 20 minutes. He seemed fine, normal. And you haven't heard from him since? No. But that wasn't unusual. Sometimes we'd go a few weeks between calls. He was busy with work. Have you tried calling his cell phone? Yes, it goes straight to voicemail. Hayes made more notes. The employer reported him missing from work 3 days ago, correct? Yes. That's when they called me. And your daughter-in-law claims he left her approximately 2 weeks ago for another woman? That's her latest story. First she said he died 2 weeks ago. When I found his active social media, she changed it to him leaving her. Hayes's expression grew more serious. That's definitely concerning. The changing stories, the conflicting timeline. I'm going to file an official missing persons report, and we'll do a welfare check on the residence. We'll also try to ping his cell phone location if it's on. Relief flooded through me. Finally, someone was taking this seriously. What about the backyard? I asked. The fresh dirt. Shouldn't someone check? If the welfare check raises concerns, We can pursue a search warrant. But I need probable cause. The fresh dirt alone isn't enough, especially if Mrs. Patterson claims it's just gardening. Detective, I think she hurt him. I think something terrible happened. I understand, and I'm taking this seriously. Give me 24 hours to investigate. I'll call you as soon as I know anything. I gave him all my contact information and left the station feeling marginally better. At least the police were involved now. At least someone with authority was looking into it. I checked into a hotel and spent the rest of the day trying to reach anyone who might know where Thomas was. I called his friends, his coworkers, even his dentist's office. No one had seen or heard from him since the previous week. That evening, Detective Hayes called. Mrs. Patterson, we conducted a welfare check at the residence this afternoon. Mrs. Patterson was cooperative. She showed us text messages from Thomas's phone sent this morning, stating that he's fine and just needs some space away from everyone. She appears genuinely concerned about him and didn't resist our visit. My stomach sank. What did the text say exactly? That he's taking time to think, dealing with personal issues, and will be in touch when he's ready. The messages came from his phone number. Detective, Thomas wouldn't text like that. He'd call. And he'd never ignore his workplace or worry his family. I understand your concern, but we have recent communication from the alleged victim stating he's fine. That makes it difficult to pursue this as a criminal investigation. Mrs. Patterson also mentioned that you've been experiencing some memory issues lately. Is that accurate? Rage and disbelief hit me simultaneously. Memory issues? I'm 62 years old, and sharp as I've ever been. She's lying to make me seem unreliable. Mrs. Patterson, I'm not saying I don't believe you, but without evidence of a crime, my hands are tied. A grown man has the right to take time away from his life if he chooses. What about the backyard? The fresh dirt? We asked about it. She said she redid her garden bed last week. That's not unusual or illegal. Please, detective, something is wrong. Those texts aren't from Thomas. I know my son. There was sympathy in his voice when he replied, I'll keep the missing persons report active. If anything else develops, if we find any evidence of foul play, we'll pursue it aggressively. But right now, with those text messages, I can't justify further investigation. After he hung up, I sat on the hotel bed and cried. Then I dried my tears and started thinking. If the police wouldn't help yet, I'd have to find evidence myself. I texted Thomas's number. Thomas, it's Mom. Please call me. I'm worried sick. Just let me know. You're okay. No response. I tried calling again, straight to voicemail. Then I remembered Thomas's doctor's office. He'd mentioned a few months ago that he had surgery scheduled for November to fix a recurring back problem. I looked up the orthopedic surgeon's office and called. Hi, this is Thomas Patterson's mother, I said to the receptionist. I'm trying to confirm his surgery appointment this month. Can you tell me when it's scheduled? Let me check, she said. I heard typing. Oh, actually, Mr. Patterson called 3 days ago to cancel the surgery. My heart started racing. 3 days ago? Monday? Yes, Monday afternoon. Did he say why he was canceling? The notes say he needed to postpone for personal reasons. Did he sound like himself? Did his voice sound normal? There was a pause. That's a strange question. Why do you ask? Please, it's important. Another pause. Well, actually, now that you mention it, he did sound different. I remember thinking he must have had a cold or something. His voice was deeper, raspier, but he knew all the right information. His birth date, his patient number. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you so much. I hung up and sat there processing. Someone had called to cancel Thomas's surgery 3 days ago, the same day he stopped showing up to work. Someone who knew his personal information, but didn't quite sound like him. Amanda, or someone working with her. That evening, around 8, my phone chimed with an email notification. The sender was Thomas's email address. My hands shook as I opened it. Mom, I'm sorry I worried you. Amanda told me you called. I'm fine. I need space from everyone right now. I'm dealing with some personal issues. Please don't try to find me. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I love you, Thomas. I read it 3 times, looking for any sign that it was really from him. Then I saw it, the signature. Thomas always signed his emails to me as Tom, always, since he was a teenager. He never used his full name with me. And there was a grammatical error in the 3rd sentence, a comma splice. Thomas had been an English major. He never made mistakes like that. Someone else had sent this email. Someone with access to his account. I took screenshots of the email and immediately called Detective Hayes's direct line. It went to voicemail. I left a message explaining about the signature, the grammar error, the canceled surgery appointment with the wrong-sounding voice. Then I did something I'd never done before. I went online and searched for private investigators in Denver. I found one with good reviews and a website that emphasized missing persons cases. Marcus Chen, licensed investigator with 20 years of experience. I called the number. He answered on the 2nd ring. Marcus Chen. Mr. Chen, my name is Lynn Patterson. I need help finding my son. I think his wife has done something to him. Tell me everything. I spent 30 minutes explaining the whole situation. Marcus listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When I finished, he said, Mrs. Patterson, I'll be honest with you. This sounds serious. I can start surveillance on your daughter-in-law immediately, and I can do some background investigation. My rate is $200 an hour plus expenses. I'll pay it, whatever it takes. I'll need a retainer of $2,000 to start. It was money I didn't really have, money I'd been saving for emergencies. But this was the biggest emergency of my life. I'll wire it tonight. Please start as soon as possible. I'll begin first thing tomorrow morning. I'll be in touch. After I hung up, I tried to sleep but couldn't. I kept seeing that fresh dirt in Amanda's backyard, kept imagining horrible things. Finally, around 3 a.m, exhaustion pulled me under into fitful dreams of my son calling for me, needing me, while I searched for him in endless dark corridors. The next 2 days were agony. Marcus called me with updates, but they were minimal at first. He'd established surveillance on Amanda's house and was following her movements. She went to work at a marketing firm downtown, came home in the evenings, normal routine. Meanwhile, I did my own investigating. I remembered that I was still listed on Thomas's bank account from his college years. He'd never removed me. I logged in online using the old password, praying he hadn't changed it. He hadn't. My stomach turned as I scrolled through the transaction history. Large withdrawals over the past week, totaling $80,000, all made by Amanda from the joint account using her debit card. ATM withdrawals, cash advances. The account was almost empty now. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to both Detective Hayes and Marcus. On the 3rd day, Marcus called with something more substantial. Mrs. Patterson, I've been following Amanda as requested. She's been meeting regularly with a man. His name is Jason Reed. He's a personal trainer at the gym where she has a membership. But they're not meeting at the gym. They're meeting at his apartment, at odd hours. This morning she went there at 6, before work. Yesterday she was there for 2 hours in the evening. An affair? I asked. Looks that way. I got photos. They're definitely intimate. I saw them kissing through his window. Hope surged through me, twisted and dark. If Amanda was having an affair, maybe that gave her a motive. Maybe she wanted Thomas gone, so she could be with this Jason. Maybe she killed Thomas for the insurance money and to be free. Keep following her, I said. Get as much evidence as you can. Already on it. I'm also running background checks on both her and Jason. Should have results tomorrow. I took the affair evidence straight to Detective Hayes. This time I didn't call ahead. I just showed up at the station and insisted on seeing him. Hayes reviewed the photos Marcus had taken. Amanda and Jason standing close together outside his apartment. Amanda and Jason kissing in a car. Timestamps on everything. This shows she's having an affair, Hayes said slowly. But it doesn't prove she harmed your son. It gives her motive. She wanted to be with this man, She wanted the insurance money. Thomas filed for divorce. Maybe she decided to get rid of him instead. Hayes rubbed his face. Mrs. Patterson, I hear you. But I still have text messages and an email from Thomas's account saying he's fine. Until we can prove those communications are fraudulent, or until we have evidence of a crime scene, I can't get a search warrant based on an affair. What about the bank withdrawals? $80,000 in a week? That's concerning, but it's a joint account. She has legal access to it. If Thomas were here to contest it, that would be different. But he's not reporting fraud. I wanted to scream. Because he can't. Because something happened to him. Hayes held up his hands. Let me make some calls. The canceled surgery with the wrong-sounding voice, combined with the affair and the financial activity, might be enough for me to push harder. Give me until end of business today. I left the station feeling frustrated but marginally hopeful. At least Hayes was taking it more seriously now. That afternoon, Marcus called again. Mrs. Patterson, I found something. Thomas's phone location. I have a contact who was able to ping it through the cellular network. The phone has been at Thomas and Amanda's house the entire time. It never left. Not once in the past week. So, whoever sent those texts, sent them from the house. Exactly. Which means Thomas didn't send them. Someone else did, using his phone. That proves the communications are fake. It's strong evidence. I'm writing up a report for you to take to the police. 2 hours later, I was back at the station with Marcus's report. Hayes read it carefully, his expression growing darker. This changes things, he said finally. If the phone never left the house, then someone at that house sent those messages pretending to be Thomas. That's enough for me to pursue a search warrant. When? I asked breathlessly. I'll have it drawn up tonight. We'll execute it first thing tomorrow morning. I want you present, since you can identify Thomas's belongings and anything that seems out of place. For the first time in days, I felt real hope. Tomorrow, the police would search the house. They'd dig up that backyard. They'd find evidence. They'd find the truth about what Amanda had done to my son. I spent that evening in my hotel room, pacing, unable to eat, unable to rest. I kept imagining tomorrow, imagining what they might find. Part of me was terrified they'd find Thomas's body. Part of me was terrified they'd find nothing, and I'd be back to square one. At 2 a.m, my phone rang. Amanda's number. I answered immediately. Amanda? She was hysterical, crying, her words tumbling over each other in panic. What are you doing with my life? The police just served me with a search warrant. They're treating me like a criminal. Thomas is going to be furious when he finds out what you've done. You've destroyed everything. Where is Thomas? I demanded. You want to know where Thomas is? Fine. He's at his brother's house. He's been there the whole time. Call Patrick and ask him yourself. You're lying. I'm not. He went to California to stay with Patrick while we work things out. He didn't want anyone to know, because he was embarrassed about the separation. Call Patrick right now. She hung up. My heart raced. Patrick was Thomas's younger brother, living in San Diego. They were close but not inseparable. I hadn't even thought to call Patrick. With shaking hands, I dialed Patrick's number. It rang 4 times before a groggy voice answered. Hello? Patrick, it's Mom. I'm sorry to wake you. Mom? It's 2 a.m. What's wrong? Is Thomas there? Is he staying with you? There was a confused pause. Thomas? No, Mom. I haven't seen Thomas in 6 months. We talked on the phone last month, but that's it. Why? What's going on? My blood turned to ice. Amanda just told me he was at your house. Mom, what's happening? You're scaring me. Thomas is missing, Patrick. He's been missing for at least a week, maybe longer. Amanda has been lying about where he is. Oh my God. Mom, I'll get the first flight out tomorrow. Have you called the police? Yes. They're searching Amanda's house in the morning. Patrick, I'm terrified. I think she's done something horrible to him. We talked for another 10 minutes. Patrick was getting dressed, looking up flights even as we spoke. After we hung up, I sat there in the dark hotel room, processing what had just happened. Amanda had called in a panic. supposedly to tell me where Thomas really was. But it was another lie, just like all the others. Why call at 2 in the morning with false information unless she was desperate? Unless she was trying to create confusion to buy time. Buy time for what? The search was happening in 7 hours. Was Amanda trying to destroy evidence right now? Was that why she called? To distract me? To keep me on the phone while she did something terrible in her backyard? I called Detective Hayes' cell phone. It went to voicemail. I left a frantic message about Amanda's call and my fear that she was destroying evidence. Then I got in my rental car and drove to Amanda's house. The neighborhood was dark and silent at 2:30 in the morning. Amanda's house had lights on in several windows. I parked down the street and watched. At 3, Amanda came out the back door. Even from my distance, I could see she was carrying something. She went to the shed, came back with a shovel. Then she disappeared into the backyard. My hands gripped the steering wheel. She was digging. At 3 in the morning, hours before the police search, Amanda was digging in her backyard. I tried calling Hayes again. No answer. I tried calling 911, but what would I say? I was watching my daughter-in-law garden in the middle of the night. All I could do was sit there and watch and pray that the morning would bring answers, even if those answers broke my heart. Dawn finally came, gray and cold. I'd stayed in my car all night, watching Amanda's house. She'd been outside for over an hour in the middle of the night, digging in that backyard. When she finally went back inside around 4:30, I saw her through the window, washing her hands at the kitchen sink, her shoulders shaking like she was crying or laughing. I couldn't tell which. Detective Hayes arrived at 7 with 3 other officers and a van. I got out of my car and walked over on stiff legs. "Mrs. Patterson," Hayes said, looking concerned. "Have you been here all night?" Amanda was digging in the backyard at 3 this morning, right after she called me with another lie about where Thomas is. Hayes's expression hardened. "Stay close, but let us handle this." They approached the house and rang the bell. Amanda answered quickly, like she'd been waiting. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair unwashed, her clothes wrinkled. But there was something else in her expression, defiance mixed with terror. "I don't understand why you're doing this," she said loudly, her voice carrying across the quiet street. Neighbors were starting to peer out their windows. "My husband left me, and now his mother is harassing me, trying to make it into some criminal investigation." "Ma'am, we have a warrant to search the premises," Hayes said calmly. "Please step aside." Amanda moved to block the door. "This is harassment. My lawyer will hear about this." "You can call your lawyer, but we're executing this warrant now. Please step aside, or I'll have to move you myself." Amanda finally moved, but her eyes found mine across the lawn. The look she gave me was pure hatred. The officers spread through the house methodically. I followed Hayes inside, my heart hammering. The house looked different than when I'd broken in days ago. Cleaner somehow, more staged. Like Amanda had been preparing for this. They photographed everything. The empty closet space, the bare office, the suspicious documents I'd already shown them. In the kitchen, they found Thomas's wallet in a drawer, tucked under some dish towels. His driver's license, credit cards, insurance cards, all there. "Why would he leave without his wallet?" Hayes asked Amanda. She had an answer ready. "He took cash. He said he didn't want me tracking his cards." In the garage, they found Thomas's laptop bag, empty, no computer. But it was the backyard that held everyone's attention. The flower bed along the fence looked freshly turned. Very freshly turned. Like someone had been digging there recently. Like maybe 3 hours ago. Hayes called for the cadaver dog. A German shepherd arrived with its handler 20 minutes later. We all stood back as the dog worked the yard. The dog alerted immediately on the flower bed. It sat down and barked, the signal that it had detected human remains. My legs went weak. Officers caught me before I fell. "No," I whispered. "Please, no." Hayes ordered his team to start excavating carefully. They brought in shovels and began removing dirt from the flower bed, working slowly, methodically, treating it like an archaeological dig. Amanda was standing on the back porch, and now she started crying. "I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't. He left me. This is crazy," one of the officers called out. They'd found something. Not a body, a plastic container, the kind used for storing winter clothes. They lifted it out carefully and opened it. Inside was Thomas's phone. His keys, his wedding ring, his laptop, all buried together like a time capsule of his life. "Mrs. Patterson, can you identify these items?" Hayes asked. I nodded, unable to speak. That was Thomas's phone case, the blue one with the cracked corner. His keys on the keychain I'd given him for his birthday 2 years ago. His silver wedding band. "Amanda Patterson, I need you to come with me," Hayes said. "We have some questions." "I buried them because I was angry," Amanda said quickly, desperately. "When Thomas left me, I was so hurt, so angry. I wanted to hurt him back, so I buried his things. I know it was stupid. But it's not illegal to bury your husband's belongings in your own backyard." But Hayes wasn't buying it. "If he left you, why do you have his phone? How was he texting us from a phone that was buried in your yard?" Amanda's mouth opened and closed. No answer came out. "You need to come with us now. We're taking you in for questioning." As they led Amanda away in handcuffs, she was screaming, "This is insane! I didn't do anything. Thomas left me. He left me, and you're treating me like a murderer." Hayes turned to me. "Mrs. Patterson, we're going to process all of this evidence. The phone and laptop will go to our forensic team. I'll be in touch as soon as we know anything." "What about Thomas?" I asked. "If his phone was here the whole time, where is he?" "That's what we need to find out." The rest of the day was a blur of waiting and worrying. Patrick arrived on an afternoon flight. I picked him up from the airport, and we held each other in the parking garage, both of us crying. "We'll find him, Mom," Patrick said. "We'll find Thomas." That evening, Detective Hayes called. His voice was grim. "Mrs. Patterson, we've examined Thomas's laptop. The search history is disturbing. 2 weeks ago, someone used the computer to search for things like how to make a death look like an accident, information about untraceable poisons, how long it takes for a life insurance investigation, and when a missing person can be declared legally dead." "Amanda," I breathed. "The searches were done from her user account on their shared computer, yes. We've also been interrogating her. She's not being fully cooperative, but we brought in her boyfriend, Jason Reed, separately. He's cracking." "What did he say?" "Jason admits that Amanda approached him 3 weeks ago with a plan. She wanted Thomas gone. Jason is deep in gambling debt, owes money to some dangerous people. Amanda promised him $50,000 if he helped her." I felt sick. Helped her do what? According to Jason's statement, they drugged Thomas 2 weeks ago. Wednesday night, November 8th. Amanda put something in his dinner that knocked him out. When he was unconscious, they loaded him into Jason's truck and drove him to a remote location about 4 hours from here, an abandoned industrial area near the Wyoming border. They left him in an old warehouse building. The plan was to leave him there, disoriented and far from home, with no phone, no wallet, no identification. They thought he'd either wander off and get lost, or it would look like he'd had some kind of mental breakdown. Amanda was going to report him missing eventually, and then, after the required waiting period, have him declared legally dead and collect the insurance. "Oh my God," I whispered. "Where is he now? Did they go back to check on him?" There was a terrible pause. "Mrs. Patterson, police went to the location Jason described. The abandoned warehouse near a town called Pine Bluff, Wyoming. Thomas wasn't there. The building was empty." "What do you mean empty?" "We found some evidence that someone had been there recently. A few drops of blood, consistent with a head injury. Disturbance in the dust pattern suggesting a body or person had been lying there. But no Thomas. He got away? He escaped? It's possible. It's been 2 weeks since they left him there. Jason swears Thomas was alive when they left him, just unconscious. But Mrs. Patterson, It's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks in November in Wyoming. Temperatures have been dropping below freezing at night. If Thomas was injured, confused, without shelter or supplies. No. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. No. Thomas is strong. He's smart. He would have survived. He would have found help. We have search teams combing the area. It's mostly abandoned industrial sites and open land. Very few people around. The nearest town is 10 miles away. We're checking hospitals, shelters, anywhere he might have gone for help. I'm coming there. To Wyoming. I need to help search. Mrs. Patterson, I understand. But I'm coming. After I hung up, I told Patrick everything. His face went through the same emotions mine had. Shock, horror, disbelief, rage. That monster, he said. She tried to kill him. She did this for insurance money. And to be with her boyfriend. Our Thomas. She left him to die. Patrick and I drove through the night to Pine Bluff, Wyoming. It was a tiny, dying town surrounded by miles of emptiness. The warehouse district, where Jason claimed they'd left Thomas, was a ghost land of crumbling buildings and broken windows. Police had set up a command center in one of the buildings. Search dogs were working the area. Volunteers were spreading out in grids. I joined them, calling Thomas's name until my voice was hoarse. For 2 days we searched. For 2 days we found nothing. Detective Hayes pulled me aside on the 3rd day. His face said everything before his words did. Mrs. Patterson, I need you to prepare yourself. The temperatures have been brutal. If Thomas was injured, if he was still affected by whatever drug they gave him, his chances of survival after 2 weeks are extremely low. We're going to keep searching, but you should consider— My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it without thinking, exhausted and desperate. Hello? A weak, hoarse voice that I barely recognized said one word. Mom? The world stopped spinning. Thomas? I screamed. Thomas, is that you? Mom. His voice was so faint, so damaged. I need help. Where are you? Baby, where are you? Hospital. Small town. I don't know where. I gave them wrong name. Confused. Just remembered your number. What hospital? Thomas, what's the name? I heard fumbling, voices in the background. Then a different voice, female, professional. Hello, is this his mother? Yes, I'm Lynn Patterson. That's my son Thomas. Where is he? He's at Mountain View Medical Center in Elk Ridge, Wyoming. He came in yesterday. He's been disoriented, so we couldn't get much information from him. He's dehydrated, malnourished, with some injuries. But he's going to be okay. He finally remembered your number. I was already running for the car, Patrick behind me. We're coming. We're 2 hours away, maybe less. Tell him we're coming. Tell him his mother is coming. As I drove, breaking every speed limit, Thomas came back on the line. His voice was stronger now, more alert. Mom, I need to tell you something. About Amanda. I know, baby. I know what she did. The police know. She's in custody. No, there's more. His words came out rushed, desperate. When I was drugged, before I passed out completely, I heard them talking. Amanda and that guy, Jason, they were arguing about something. Jason said something like, I can't believe we're doing this again. And Amanda said, Mark was easier because he actually died. Mom, she was talking about someone named Mark, her first husband. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her first husband? I didn't know she was married before me. She never told me. But Mom, when I woke up in that building, I was so confused, but I remembered that conversation. She said Mark died when they left him. She's done this before. Mom, I think Amanda killed her first husband. You have to tell the police. The line went dead. The phone battery had died, but I had enough. I called Detective Hayes while Patrick drove. I told him everything Thomas had said. There was a long silence. Then, Mark. First husband. I'll start investigating immediately. Mrs. Patterson, get to your son. I'll have officers meet you at the hospital to take his full statement. 60 miles of Wyoming highway had never felt so long. But finally, we pulled into the parking lot of a small rural hospital. Patrick and I ran inside. A nurse directed us to a room on the second floor. I pushed open the door, and there he was. My son, my Thomas, alive. He was thin, so thin. His face was bruised and scraped. His arm was in a sling. IV tubes ran into his other arm. But his eyes, his beautiful brown eyes, found mine and filled with tears. "Mom," he sobbed. I ran to him and held him as gently as I could while he shook with sobs in my arms. Patrick stood at the foot of the bed, crying too. "I've got you," I whispered. "You're safe now. You're safe." Thomas spent 3 days in the hospital while doctors treated him for exposure, dehydration, severe malnutrition, a concussion, and frostbite on 3 of his toes. But he was alive, and that was all that mattered. During those 3 days, he told us everything he could remember. The dinner with Amanda that made him feel strange and dizzy, waking up in the cold, dark warehouse with his head pounding and blood on his face. The terror of not knowing where he was or how he got there. The days of wandering in the cold, trying to find help, collapsing repeatedly, drinking from puddles, eating nothing. "I kept thinking about you, Mom," he said, holding my hand. "I kept thinking I had to survive to see you again. That's what kept me going." Detective Hayes came to take his statement. Thomas repeated what he'd overheard about Mark, Amanda's first husband. "We've already started investigating," Hayes said. Amanda Patterson was previously married to a Mark Sullivan. He died 6 years ago during what was ruled an accidental drowning. He and Amanda were on a camping trip alone in the mountains. She reported that he went swimming in a lake and never came back. His body was found 3 days later. Life insurance paid out $300,000 to Amanda. "It wasn't an accident," Thomas said. "I heard her. She said Mark was easier because he actually died. We're reopening that case immediately. We're also looking into whether Amanda had any connection to someone matching Jason Reed's profile back then, someone who might have helped her." Over the next week, as Thomas recovered, the investigation exploded. Police discovered that 6 years ago, Amanda had been seeing a personal trainer named Brad Morrison. Brad had suddenly paid off $25,000 in credit card debt right after Mark's death. When detectives tracked Brad down, he was initially resistant. But faced with the evidence from Thomas's case and the reopened investigation into Mark's death, he eventually confessed. Amanda had approached Brad with the same plan she'd later use with Jason. Mark was becoming difficult, Amanda had told Brad. Mark wanted to cut her off financially after discovering she'd been cheating. Brad owed money and needed a way out. Amanda promised him a cut of the life insurance if he'd help her. They'd drugged Mark during the camping trip and held him underwater in the lake until he drowned. Then, they'd made it look like an accidental drowning. The remote location, the story of Mark going for a solo swim, it had all been carefully planned. "She's a serial killer," Patrick said one evening as we sat in Thomas's hospital room. "She killed Mark and tried to kill Thomas. How many others were there?" "Police are investigating that now," Hayes told us. "They're looking into anyone Amanda dated seriously between Mark and Thomas. So far, they haven't found other victims, but the investigation is ongoing." Amanda, faced with overwhelming evidence from both cases, finally broke. Through her lawyer, she tried to negotiate a plea deal. She claimed Jason and Brad had coerced her, that she'd been afraid of them. But both men testified against her in detail, and the evidence told a clear story. Amanda was a manipulator who targeted vulnerable men with money problems, used them to eliminate her husbands for insurance money, and then moved on to her next victim. The trial was held 3 months later. I attended every day, sitting in the front row where Amanda could see me. I wanted her to know that I'd won, that my persistence had saved my son and brought justice for Mark. The prosecution laid out both cases in excruciating detail. Mark's family testified about their suspicions that had never been taken seriously. Thomas testified about his ordeal, about overhearing Amanda's confession. Jason and Brad both testified against her, their testimony remarkably consistent about Amanda's methods and manipulation. I was called to testify about my investigation, about how Amanda had tried to gaslight me, manipulate me, and prevent me from finding the truth. I described the phone call where she told me Thomas was dead and already buried. The jury looked horrified. Amanda's defense tried to paint her as a victim of abusive men who'd forced her into these situations, but the evidence was too strong. The search history on her computer, the financial records showing her draining accounts, the testimony from multiple sources about her planning and manipulation. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder in Mark Sullivan's death. Attempted murder in Thomas Patterson's case. Fraud, conspiracy, and a dozen other charges. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole for Mark's murder, plus consecutive sentences totaling another 60 years for the crimes against Thomas. As they led Amanda away, she turned and looked at me one last time. There was no remorse in her eyes, only anger that she'd been caught. I stared back at her, unflinching. I'd saved my son. I'd brought her to justice. That was all that mattered. 6 months after the trial, Thomas and I sat on my porch in Florida, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. He'd moved back to be closer to me while he recovered, both physically and emotionally. The frostbite had healed, leaving only minor scarring. The concussion symptoms had faded. But the emotional wounds took longer. We'd both been in therapy, separately and together, processing what had happened, what we'd been through, what we'd survived. Thomas struggled with nightmares about waking up in that warehouse, about wandering alone in the cold. I had my own nightmares about that phone call, about Amanda's voice telling me my son was dead. But we were healing, together. I still can't believe you figured it out, Thomas said, taking a sip of lemonade. If you hadn't kept pushing, hadn't kept investigating when everyone told you to stop. I knew something was wrong, I said simply, from that very first phone call. When Amanda told me you were dead and already buried without me there, every fiber of my being screamed that it was a lie. I couldn't explain it then. I just knew. Mother's intuition? Maybe. Or maybe just love. I know you, Thomas. I've known you since the moment you were born. I know your voice, your patterns, your heart. When Amanda tried to erase you with her lies, I could feel that it was wrong. Patrick had visited last month. The 3 of us had taken a trip together, something we'd promised to do every year from now on. We'd gone to the mountains, ironically, but it had been healing, taking back the wilderness from the trauma it represented. We'd also connected with Mark Sullivan's family. His parents, elderly and grieving, had finally found closure knowing their son's death was acknowledged as murder. They'd suspected Amanda all along but had been dismissed, just like I'd been dismissed at first. We'd formed a bond, this strange little group of survivors. Mark's mom told me something interesting, I said to Thomas. She said that when Mark first started dating Amanda, she had a bad feeling about her. Something in her gut told her Amanda was dangerous. But she ignored it, didn't want to seem like the overbearing mother, didn't want to drive Mark away. And by the time she tried to warn him, it was too late, Thomas finished. Right. She told me that if she could go back, she'd trust that instinct. She'd make noise, cause problems, be the difficult mother if that's what it took. She told me to never apologize for fighting for you. Thomas reached over and squeezed my hand. You saved my life, Mom. You were annoying and difficult and you broke into Amanda's house and you harassed the police and you never gave up. You were exactly what I needed. I laughed through sudden tears. Being an annoying, difficult mother is apparently my superpower. The best superpower, he said. Over the past months, I'd been asked to speak at several events for families of missing persons. Support groups, conferences, even a podcast. I shared my story not to brag, but to encourage others. To tell them that when everyone says you're crazy, when the police dismiss you, when the evidence seems to point away from your instincts, sometimes you have to trust yourself anyway. People ask me what made me keep going, I told one support group. The truth is, I couldn't not keep going. Thomas is my son. When you love someone that much, giving up isn't an option. Every door that closed, I looked for a window. Every person who dismissed me, I found someone else to listen. Every lie Amanda told, I dug deeper for the truth. I'd also become an advocate for better police response to missing persons cases. Detective Hayes had done good work once he took me seriously, but those first crucial days when he dismissed my concerns because of fake text messages could have been fatal. I was working with lawmakers to improve training, to help officers recognize the signs of gaslighting and manipulation, to take family members' concerns more seriously. Thomas had returned to work, though at a different company. Too many memories at the old one. He was dating again, cautiously. Therapy was helping him learn to trust again, to not see Amanda in every woman he met. "I'm thinking about writing a book," he told me one evening, "about the whole experience. My perspective and yours. How you saved me." "I think you should," I said. "If it helps even one person, it's worth it." "What would you want the message to be?" he asked. I thought about that for a long moment, watching the sun sink lower toward the horizon. "I think the message is about trust," I finally said. "Not trusting other people, though that's important too. But trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, your knowledge, your love. People will try to make you doubt yourself. They'll gaslight you, dismiss you, call you crazy or confused or hysterical. Amanda tried to make me seem like a delusional old woman with memory problems. The police initially thought I was an overreacting mother. But I knew what I knew. I knew something was wrong with my child. That knowing saved my life," Thomas said softly. "That knowing is powerful," I continued. "It's the kind of knowledge that comes from deep love and attention, from really knowing someone, really paying attention to them. When Amanda tried to imitate you with those texts and emails, I knew they weren't from you because I know you. Your patterns, your voice, your grammar. A mother knows." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the evening birds and the distant sound of the ocean. "You know what the strangest part is?" Thomas said eventually. "Amanda almost got away with it. If you'd accepted her first story, if you'd believed the funeral lie, she could have just disappeared me. Eventually reported me missing, collected the insurance in 7 years, and no one would have known. Mark's case would have stayed closed. She'd still be free. But I didn't accept it," I said firmly. "And that's the point. Evil depends on people giving up, on people accepting the easy lie rather than fighting for the difficult truth. Amanda was clever, manipulative, had a backup plan for everything, but she didn't count on a mother's stubborn, relentless, annoying love." Thomas laughed. "The most powerful force in the universe." "Absolutely." As the sun finally set, painting the world in deepening shades of purple and blue, I thought about everything we'd been through. The terror, the frustration, the moments of despair, but also the triumph, the justice, the miracle of having my son alive beside me. "I want people to know," I said, "that you don't have to be a detective or a genius to fight for someone you love. You just have to refuse to give up. Keep asking questions. Keep pushing. Keep trusting that voice inside that tells you something is wrong. Don't let anyone gaslight you into silence." "Even when it seems hopeless?" Thomas asked. "Especially then," I said, "because the moment you give up might be the moment before the breakthrough. I almost gave up, you know. When the police wouldn't help at first, when everyone thought I was losing my mind, but I couldn't. You were out there, needing me, and I couldn't stop fighting." "I'm so glad you didn't," Thomas whispered. "Me too, baby. Me too." The porch light flickered on automatically as full darkness fell. Inside, I could see the photos on my mantel. Thomas as a baby, as a child, as a young man, and new photos now, taken since his rescue. Photos of survival, recovery, and hope. "You know what I've learned through all this?" I said. "That the greatest power we have is simply refusing to give up when everyone else has. That persistence, that stubborn love, can move mountains and uncover the darkest truths. I'm just a mother who refused to accept a lie. That refusal saved your life and brought justice to Mark's family. Never underestimate the power of a woman who won't take no for an answer." Thomas smiled at me, his eyes reflecting the porch light. Best superpower ever. We sat there together as the night deepened around us, safe and together, and grateful for second chances. Despite everything we'd endured, we'd emerged stronger, closer. Justice had been served. Truth had prevailed. And a mother's love had triumphed over evil. I'd faced the unthinkable and survived it. I'd been dismissed, doubted, and gaslit, but I'd trusted my instincts and saved my child. And if there's anything I want others to take from this story, it's this. When you know something in your bones, when your intuition screams at you, don't ignore it. Trust yourself. Fight for the truth. Stand up for the people you love, even when the whole world tells you you're wrong. Because sometimes, just sometimes, that stubborn refusal to give up is exactly what's needed to save a life. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever had a moment when your instincts told you something was wrong, but everyone else dismissed your concerns? Did you trust yourself, or did you let others convince you to stay silent? Think about that, because your intuition, especially when it comes to people you love, is powerful. Don't ignore it. If this story touched you, if it made you think, I hope you'll share it with others. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future stories. Leave a comment below telling me about a time your instincts saved the day, or about someone in your life who refused to give up when it mattered most. And please, give this video a like if you believe in the power of a mother's love and a woman's determination. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here with me through this journey. I hope you never need the kind of strength I had to find, but if you do, I hope you remember that you have it in you. You're stronger than you know. Stay safe. Trust your instincts, and never stop fighting for the people you love.